this day of your time. How are you all? Once again, we take this opportunity in communicating with your civilization in this way to thank each and every one of you, individually, and all of you together collectively, for allowing this co-created transmission to take place through this gateway at this time. Once again, each and every time you allow such a communication to take place, our civilization is afforded the opportunity to see, through each and every one of you, a different perspective of another way that the infinite has of creating itself, and this expands our understanding of creation, so we thank you for this gift. We would like to begin this day of your time with a few brief notions. One has, as we understand it, been given to you as a visual aid in this transmission, will be representative of a couple of tools that you can utilize in your physiological reality for new understanding, new application, new effects in your life. What you will see as the diagram that has to do with the chakra cycles basically is outlined as follows. Many of you are familiar with the idea that the chakras are energy centers in the body, and that your physiological body fundamentally contains 7 major energy centers that are responsible for the flow of certain kinds of frequency, certain kinds of energies that you deal with, that aid and assist you in balancing your overall ability to function in your day-to-day physiological reality. And many of you already understand that as you grow, as you mature, as you explore, as you evolve, that you experience each and every one of these specific energy centers as being dominant in a particular timing of your life, and that as you go up the ladder, so to speak, up the scale of the energy centers, the chakra systems, you integrate them, ideally, one by one, into a balanced state that allows you to function more holistically in your reality, to create more effortlessly all the things that are necessary for you to create in your lifetime. This idea is a little bit of an extension now of this concept to show you that there is a one-to-one correspondence to the idea of each and every year of your life with the concept of exactly how you go through these 7 systems, these chakra centers in your body. There are, of course, more than 7 in the sense that they extend beyond your body. But for now, this deals mainly with the idea of your physiological form, because in the physiological reality, the cycle is 7, and thus is what determines the pattern of cycles of 7 years. Thus, you can see from this chart, as you hold it, the idea being that as you are in your first year of physical existence, you explore for the first time the energy that is representative of the first chakra, which is fundamentally the idea of connection, foundation, making the connection to your culture, to your reality. In a sense, survival, learning to connect and survive in your physiological world as a spirit. Thus you then, year by year, go up the ladder, incorporating new understandings of emotionality and intention and love and expression and seeing and spirituality and so forth as you mature. In your first 7 years of life, of course, you thus go through the chakra cycle for the first time. But as you reach your 7th year, you will understand that what you have done by going through it for the first time is that you have experienced all these different levels of energy within the idea of the expression of the energy of the first chakra. So in other words, even though you may in your 7th year be exploring the concept of activating your spiritual crown chakra, the idea is that you're doing it within the purpose and within the energy of completing your connection to physiological reality in your idea of forming this bond and foundation for the rest of your life. Then as you go from your 8th year to your 14th year and enter what you call your puberty, the idea is that you are now repeating the idea of exploring all 7 chakras, but you are now doing it within the context of expanding each one and doing it within the context of the 2nd level energy, that is, thus making connection to the idea of relationship, learning what that is all about, expressing the idea of your emotionality, informing relationship with new friends, moving out into the world, as you say, starting to go to school, and learning to meet new people. and increasing your parameter of the kinds of relationships that you have beyond your family. And so on up the scale. For each 7 chakra systems that you go through then in each cycle, you are moving up slowly through the chakra system as well by exploring all 7 in that modality, in each chakra modality. As you do this and go up the scale, then 7 times 7 in your 49th year, you have completed the first grand cycle of life. And in a sense, you then begin over. But you begin on a higher level. Again, in the overriding energy, much more advanced, of course, of the second grand cycle chakra, thus exploring new concepts of relationship and connection to perhaps other dimensions, other realities, parallel lives, so on and so forth, much more concretely than you may have done in the first 49 years of your physiological reality. So each orbit of your planet, each year, as you call it, will engage, like a gear, another chakra for a new cycle. So this can be utilized generally, and sometimes specifically, to understand exactly where you are in your life with regard to what kind of energy you are exploring, what kind of energy level you are at, what issues you are dealing with, and you can see what is coming up, and perhaps can prepare yourself to understand how to integrate these ideas better by using it as a chart or a map to understand exactly when you will be receiving the next level of energy, what it will entail, and how perhaps you can best integrate it by finding your position on this chart to give yourself a little bit better understanding of how you can more smoothly incorporate holistically all of the energies that you may face now that you may not understand where they are coming from, why this issue now, why this timing now. Overlaying this kind of a chart on your life can at least give you a general understanding of the course that you are charting and help you perhaps illuminate a little bit more clearly the agendas and the agreements you made as a spiritual being when you chose to become a physiological consciousness. So use that tool and allow yourself, in that sense, to play with it in your imagination, to expand upon it, to add more detail to it, and overlay it like a template in a general sense, to act as a guide and an assistive tool to you, however you wish. The second diagram, which you would recognize as the drawing of several apparent squares and angular lines, is representative of a very powerful tool that we will share with you now. It is a tool that has existed on your planet many times, but in many ways your civilization has forgotten exactly what this is all about and what it means. So we will remind you now that it is time for you to be able, in whatever way, shape, or form you feel is important or applicable or appropriate, it is time now for you to reintroduce this idea in your society and give over to your imagination whatever idea of using this tool your imagination feels is necessary for your growth and spiritual evolution and exploration of different levels of energy and dimensionality. Many of you are familiar with the idea that there is always a mathematical relationship within any structure in nature, in the universe, physically. Some time ago, in your terms of counting, mathematicians discovered certain ratios and principles that, in a sense, reflect or represent these energy levels, these frequency relationships as they exist or can be expressed mathematically in your world, in your reality. One such important one was what was labeled the Fibonacci series, which represents the ratio that occurs in all natural growth in your physical reality. This ratio being approximately 1 to 1.618. Every natural thing exhibits this ratio in all of its components, relative in relation. What you call the finger of your hand, your first joint, if you consider this to be a unit of measurement 1, the next joint will be precisely 1.618 times bigger. If you consider this joint to be a measure of 1, the next joint will be precisely 1.618 times bigger. And so on, and so on, and so on, and so on, throughout the universe. You see this in all plants, all animals, all living things, in DNA, in everything that moves and grows in that sense. And even in some ideas of crystalline structure, you will find this mathematical relationship and ratio. So this represents the underlying template, if you will, upon which physical reality grows in a certain way. It is the blueprint, so to speak, to let you know how physical reality had the ability to expand. This diagram represents a tool that takes advantage of these mathematical and energy vibrational relationships in a very powerful way. It is like, in a sense, an antenna, if you will look at the diagonal lines as if they were a cone. Now, what is the first thing that this might represent to many of you? If you will observe the idea of this particular shape, you will see that it is constructed by the utilization of the creation of forms that represent the first 7 levels of the Fibonacci sequence that go from 1 to 13. The sequence being constructed by simply adding the previous 2 numbers to get the next one. So you see that when you have the 3, you add it to the 2 to get the 5, you add the 5 to the 3 to get the 8, and so on until you arrive at 13 for the first 7 levels, so that it corresponds to the idea of the 7 chakra systems in physiological reality. From the spirit to the physical in this way. This cone, structured with these proportions by creating a baseline which would be 13 units wide below the 8, and drawing the diagonal from the end points of that line that is 13 units wide up until they just touch the corner points of the unit that is 1 unit wide, and thus allow them to continue to form a point. This is how this is constructed. When you do this, you get a conical form. If you will see this in what you call 3 dimensions, a conical form that is specifically designed to do a particular thing, and that is to act as an antenna to translate etheric, non-physical, electromagnetic, energetic reality, or spirit, into physical manifestation. That's what this form is for, to bring, in a sense, euphemistically, symbolically, heaven down to earth. You will recognize that this is the precise ratio and proportion of what you have now relegated in your memory to the idea of the wizard's hat, the witch's hat, the sorcerer's hat. That conical hat is a remnant memory of this idea, of this device. For it was then thought that by wearing it on the head, you would draw, like an antenna, the etheric energy and bring it into magical, transformational, transmutational manifestations through the body and out in magical ways. The idea to also understand is that there are other references that still exist in your reality that are remnant memories of this particular form. If you will build, actually physically construct this form in a variety of ways, a variety of sizes, a variety of materials, and place it in a variety of locations on your planet, you will find that it will actually create many different kinds of effects. Experiment with this. It is time for this tool to exist in your reality again and to be understood for what it is. There are, aside from the idea of the sorcerer's peak, 2 other strong references in your ancient literature that remind you of this particular shape. If you will look at the internal structure, that which you might recognize as cylinders within the cone, or what might look like simply squares on your drawing, but look at them as cylinders stacked upon one another in that ratio, this is the exact proportion of the construction of what your ancient literature calls the Tower of Babel. This is what it looked like. And the idea was the same. It was constructed in these proportions to act as a waveguide to amplify refined etheric energy and step it down into physical materiality for the purpose of converting that energy into a variety of forms that could be utilized in the physical world, both for inspiration and actual physical effect. Also, the conical form and the set form are what you have relegated to the symbolism, again in your ancient literature, of what is referred to as Jacob's ladder. This is Jacob's ladder, that which went from earth to heaven, from heaven to earth, and allowed the energies of the idea of what you call heaven to be manifested down the ladder onto physical planetary earth. You have recognized this symbol over and over again in many ways, but it has in a sense become lost in your literature in terms of its original true meaning. This we now share with you again to remind you of the powerful tool that this can be. For if you will play with this and experiment with this, you will find it is capable of doing many different kinds of things and can form the foundational element of new technology on your planet for tapping directly into the electromagnetic field and drawing from that field to manifest different forms of power that are, in your terms, long-lasting, non-polluting. Experiment with this in a variety of materials, sizes, and locations on your planet and see what you get. Play with it. Use your imagination. That's what this is for. So we share these ideas now with you at this time, that we deem it is time in for you to put these back into your society. And we thank you for the opportunity to do so. At this timing, we would thus then once again thank you for the co-creation of this event, and in return for the great gift that you are giving our civilization in being allowed to communicate through this window in this way at this time, I ask in return now, in what way may I and my civilization be of service to you?
Good day, Bashar.
Good day.
I was wondering, it seems to be that last month things have been like, sort of like a sudden acceleration.
Yes.
Yes, and I wonder, is this going to continue?
Yes.
Is there going to be another step?
There is going to be many more accelerations in many areas of your planet as you approach the idea of the timing of the ending of the old cycle and the beginning of the new, which is going on, has been going on for a little while, but which in a sense starts to culminate in and around the first couple of decades of your upcoming new millennium. Thus, you are now arriving at that so-called threshold, similar to the concept of, in your technology, crossing the sound barrier, or approaching the idea of the speed of light. You are arriving at that threshold and you are about to cross it. So everything must accelerate to bring all your energy to bear as a society so that you can bring all that energy, your momentum up to speed, match that frequency of your ultimate self, and begin to cross that threshold to create the new society that you are laying the foundations for now by seeing what is going on your planet and all the acceleration of new information, and also even many of what you may term the negative things that seem to be accelerating on your planet. You're getting everything up out of your system and out onto the table to examine every portion of your creation, every portion of your culture and society, to examine what it is you want to keep and what it is you want to change, to bring all that energy and consciousness and intention to bear so as to step across the threshold into the new reality you are all together co-creating. Yes, so there will be much more acceleration. You haven't, as you say in your language, seen anything yet. Get ready for the roller coaster ride of your life.
I was wondering,
yes.
As you said, this is like some acceleration, maybe a sound barrier, breaking sound barrier,
yes,
or the light barrier. What, if any, proximity one, will there be noticeable physical effects because of that?
Are there not already? Do you not see around your planet many different changes in the weather? Many different geological changes? Now, all of the ones that have been predicted don't have to come to pass. You have already transformed many of them into other forms of energy expression, such as sociological change, or political change, or financial change. They do not have to be experienced in any particular way. There will still be some acceleration in what you may call some of the geological or weather pattern or electromagnetic field changes, but again, the basic, as you say, bottom line really is, what is your energy all about? It is your frequency that will determine where you are, when you are there, and how you will experience the transformation. For like attracts like, and the energy of fear will only attract an individual into the centers that experience the transformation in a cataclysmic way, whereas the energy of joy and unconditional love of self will attract the individuals who experience the transformation, even if they are standing in the middle or around them of a cataclysm. They will never experience it in anything but a smooth and creative manner. You follow? That's the key. So do not so much be concerned about exactly what's going to happen. Be focused on the idea of what you decide you are all about, because only your wavelength will determine what you are attracted in the transition to experience, what portion or what methodology or what style of the transition you are capable of experiencing, because it can be experienced in many different ways, because it's holographic. There are any number of ways to experience it that coexist simultaneously, and what frequency you are on, like your television sets, what channel you are on determines the program you get, even though all the other programs might be there in the airwaves, you only see the one your television set is tuned to. Does that make sense to you?
Yes.
This is physics. This is how it works.
Okay. Let me step back a little.
Oh, all right. How far?
Not very far.
All right.
Okay. Just, do you have any idea when the next step, like I sort of felt this month, will happen?
They are happening all the time. There are many small transitions within larger transitions. The idea of some of the larger, regular transition points are such things as what you would call your Ides of March date. Sometimes, again, depending upon the culture, what you call your Halloween and New Year's dates, things like that. But also, in a sense, in between. There are many step-ups for a variety of reasons, depending upon whether or not you have reached certain kinds of critical mass within certain groupings of consciousness that determine that they can, in that sense, kick themselves up to the next level. You understand?
Yes.
So it is a fluctuating kind of thing. Some of the bigger ones will be, in general, coming up as your yearly understandings of your 1997 and 98. There may be many, many, many abrupt transitions, especially in the end of 97 and 98, with regard to certain political situations on your planet, especially in what you call your Middle East. And again, in the idea of your years of 2005 are great possible transitions coming up, and I say possible because we are only sensing the energy that exists at the time, that we are now talking to you about it. There's no such thing as a prediction of the future, only a sensing of the energy that exists at the time the sensing is made. That could change. But if there's a great deal of momentum behind the energy as it exists, it may be unlikely that it will go another course, and then by saying this is the energy as it exists, and if it doesn't change, then you say the prediction has come to pass. But when you hear a prediction, even though it may never come to pass, it doesn't mean it wasn't true at the time it was made. It simply means the energy may have changed, and sometimes hearing about the prediction in and of itself may change the energy, because now you're consciously aware of where the energy is going, and you can say, I don't prefer that, let's change it. And you make the prediction obsolete just by your very awareness of it.
Thank you very much.
Good morning, my friend.
And good day.
The last session I left, and I was kind of depressed a little bit. Thank you for that.
Oh, all right.
And the reason I say that, I think, is because evidently I took a good look at the question I asked, and I answered it myself.
Thank you.
This currently diagram, would this also represent the pyramids in ancient Egypt?
No. This is not the same mathematics. They have their own vibrational relationships and ratios that do similar things, but on different wavelengths and create different kinds of results. This conical form in and of itself has its own unique signature vibration and its own unique kinds of manifestational energies.
Okay. Last week I had the privilege of being with a channel that channels serious energy.
All right.
And we kicked it around, I guess, for a few days afterwards.
You kicked the channel around.
Well, the subject matter.
I see. All right. Did you dent it?
Yes.
All right.
Yes.
And what did you find in the dent?
And filled my pockets with it.
All right. And
it's regarding the photon belt.
yes.
The wave of energy that's on its way, it's not here.
Well, again, as we have originally described it, it is not so much something that is out there, as it is perhaps a side effect manifested in the electromagnetic field of physical reality that is representative of exactly what we talked about a moment ago. The leading edge of the collective consciousness of your people, creating a threshold that it's about to cross. You're crossing yourselves. That's what the photon belt is the collection of energy forming what appears to be a barrier that you know you need to break through. But it has an electromagnetic side effect, so to speak, because anything you think of, especially with the concentration of your entire culture, will create some idea in physical reality to manifest. But it isn't something just out there that you're going to pass through that has nothing to do with the fact that you created it, which you all did.
Okay.
Does that make sense to you?
Well, yes, very much.
Thank you.
Very much. Well, the same thought is to how there's a possibility of it. Now, I understand that you're going to get what you put into it.
Yes.
That's as simple as that.
Yes.
So if you put negativity into it, that's what you're going to experience in the moment.
Yes.
There was one question that came up was, well, when this energy serves us and comes through, there's a possibility that things like cars won't work.
Some areas of your planet may experience this either momentarily, or they may experience it for longer durations, but not everywhere, and the individuals in certain locations, because of their vibration, may not experience this at all.
Yeah, so it has to do with their looking at themselves, how they accept using the definitions, as you said many, many times.
Exactly so. It is a wave of energy that can be, in a sense, ridden or resisted. Thus, depending upon whether you ride the wave or resist it, determines whether or not you go forward quickly and smoothly, or whether you allow yourself to be, in a sense, smacked down by it.
Okay.
Does that help?
Greatly. It's so hard. I wasn't trying to confirm what they had said.
I understand, but I'm going to give you our perspective anyway for clarification's sake.
Oh, good.
Thank you.
Very good, very good. Going back to when I left last week, I felt like when I asked you about your path, you said no. You didn't want to discuss it. Okay, fine. But I understand that now.
All right.
Because of what's coming. Some of us will see it faster than others, and some will miss.
Yes. And fear is the key that determines the whole issue.
Well, that's the part that I don't understand. I feel aware of things that go on in this structure of humanity than the next step.
The idea, however, is that you cannot get to the next step as long as you fear what is here. That's the paradox. And you have to learn to use the power in the paradox by acceptance of what is here. Not that you necessarily prefer the way it is manifesting, but nevertheless, by unconditionally, lovingly accepting the way it is, that is what gives you the power to allow it to change. So you cannot have the next step if you do not acknowledge the step you are on. Because if you do not acknowledge the step you are on, there is no way to push off from it to take the next step, because you have made it insubstantial in that sense. You have not accepted it as real.
And you said just about what I was going to say.
Thank you. Does that help you then?
Oh, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
Hello, good day.
Over the past about 5 months or so, I've been getting a sense of my late sister's contacting me.
All right.
Okay.
But she is actually right on time.
Yes, she is.
Lovely.
Well, I found out a few months ago that my other sister, who's also on time, and she's physically here, she's been having what she interprets as being communications from the third sister also.
All right, and so?
And so, my sense of it is that it was just simply like a checking in and a floating by, because that's what I had asked for right after she died, that she would check in and...
For you, yes. For your other sister, it was a little bit more than that, because your other sister needs a little bit more confirmation than you do. So there was a little bit more help, a little bit more energy, a little bit more guidance given, even though not all of it may have been immediately realized in the transmission. For you, there was some of that, mostly in the form simply of love, saying hi, as you say in your language, checking in, yes, because you asked for it, but a little bit different for you than your other sister.
Okay, so I was asking for confirmation and interpretation of the say at the visit. Okay, so that's pretty much how I felt about it.
Yes.
But after I spoke with my sister, I began to get more thought that perhaps the departed sister was asking for help on some level?
In a sense, but perhaps not in the way you have interpreted this idea. The help that is being asked for is that you learn, all of you, to be more of yourselves, so that collectively, together, you can add your overall energy to the physical and the spiritual realm to help things accelerate more smoothly.
So nothing particular for her?
Not so much, although she understands that by you doing that, and being more unconditionally loving in all things, it will help her as well, because she will be being allowed then to do her job as a guide. by evoking in you the ability to love yourselves more unconditionally.
Can you tell how specifically, to what degree, she is guiding, say, myself and perhaps any of the other members of my immediate family?
To what degree? What With you, maybe about 15%. It's about 37%.
Okay, my other sister just gets totally scared
Yes.
about all this stuff.
Thus she needs, as we said, more guidance. Thus she gets it, which scares her more. But this is all about a certain kind of lesson. And it is about learning how to transform fear into love, into joy. We have, of recently, in talking about this idea of being afraid and transforming fear into joy, taking advantage of a wonderful synchronicity structure that exists in your particular culture's language, which you call English. It is learning how to turn scared into sacred by shuffling the letters around.
That's great.
The idea is that when you confront the fear by accepting it as information that you need, rather than denying and suppressing that portion of yourself, but allowing it in, allowing it to be real, accepting it as your reaction to something you believe to be true, you will then be able to use the idea, and I'm just speaking in general terms, not necessarily specifically about you, you'll be able to use the idea of fear constructively, beneficially, positively, because fear is only your own energy out of tune with your natural core true self. You only have one energy that is you. You experience that energy either as fear or love, in general. We understand that there may be a range of emotionality in between, but nevertheless it is all generally the product of the idea of that energy expressed either in certain colors of love or certain colors of fear. The idea thus is to, again, as an analogy, think of the device on your planet called the piano. When you play the harmonious song on the keys, and all of a sudden perhaps strike what you call a sour note, you don't go screaming away in panic from the piano. You say, this key needs to be tuned. That's what fear is. It is your own energy out of tune with your natural self because it is being filtered through definitions you have been taught to believe in that are out of alignment with who you are. When you find out why you would be afraid in any given situation because of the definitions you have about that situation, you can invent new definitions that are more in keeping, more in alignment with yourself, with who you would prefer to be. And then by filtering your energy through those newly created definitions, you will have transformed your energy from the vibration of fear to the vibration of love. That's how it works. Make sense? Yes. So, she is being pushed, given more opportunity, to understand that she needs to use the fear. So, the more she resists the idea of accepting the fear as a powerful positive tool, the more she will be given the opportunity to be afraid. Until she gets the point.
Wow. Because what she did was she went and asked her priest about it.
Yes.
And he said, well, your sister is probably asking for you to help.
Makes sense, yes.
But the interpretation was more of my previous one. Hey, hello, I'm living on the other side. You on Earth, do A, B, or C because I need your help from that realm. Specific. Now,
again, the idea is that your other sister is being, shall we say, lured into the idea of helping her sister. But that is, in a sense, a clever disguise for helping herself, because it will force her to stretch in the direction she needs to go by thinking she needs to go and help her sister. Do you understand? Do you want it clearer? In other words, if I come to you and say, I need your help, I need you to help me do a certain thing, and I know that by doing it, you will stretch, then I'm actually helping you, as you help me.
Okay.
You understand? So, your spiritual sister is giving your physical sister an indication that your spiritual sister needs help in a certain way, because she knows that will evoke the love vibration from your physical sister enough so that she will get out of her own way, stop focusing on the idea of the fear energy, stretch out to help, and in so doing all of a sudden be surprised that the help that was needed was really to her.
And it's just that at this point I perceive that it's still not helping yet. I mean, the end product is definitely not here yet. And that's what my concern.
But it isn't necessary that an end product per se be created, only that the individual, your sister, understands that there are more constructive ways to utilize anything that happens in her life and thus become more of who she is, which is the only purpose any of you have in life.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Does that help you?
Yeah, that helps.
Why, thank you for helping us.
You're welcome. One other thing, I think this will be quick if you're willing to do it. I lost a ring in my house, a ring I wore on my finger. Or maybe it was taken, I don't know. It had a gold band.
Do you have a heater?
A heater?
Yes, a heater.
Yes, I have a heater. Well, I've got a couple kinds. The main one heats the entire house. It's a central heating unit.
Does this have in any way, shape, or form the idea of what you would call grill work that is exposed in the wall or the floor area?
Yes, there are the holes that the air gets pushed out of are grills. Vertical grills, and then there's one that's horizontal, I think.
Are they anywhere near the floor?
There's one that's near the floor, but
check around there and see what you find.
Will I find the ring, do you think?
Check around there and see what you find.
I opened the whole thing up recently, but good.
Check around there
I will.
and see what you find. Do it without expectation.
Oh, that's a tough one.
How did it get to be so tough?
Well, because I want my ring back.
Why?
I like it.
So
I want to be able to look at it. I'm starting to forget even what it looks like.
You are?
Mm-hmm.
I see.
But thank you.
One moment. If you are forgetting what it looks like, how do you even know it exists? The challenge,
I really understand the question.
yes, the challenge for you here is that the ring is being used by you to sharpen your ability to manifest.
Oh, okay.
Because you are, in a sense, holding on to the physiological object as if it is real, when it is the idea that is real.
Okay.
And when you sharpen the idea, manifestation in physical reality will be easier to be reflected.
Okay, great.
But look in the area without expectation.
Okay.
I'll give you this hint to help you along.
Mm-hmm.
If you look without expectation, you might find something even more enjoyable than the ring.
Okay.
Now are you piqued?
Thank you.
Hello, Bashar.
Good day.
I have a question that's regarding animals.
Animals, yes.
I have a very, very old cat, and she's quite ill.
All right.
And I have a problem with euthanization. You're putting so many animals to sleep, and I just cannot. She's suffering, I think, at times, and I think maybe I should put her to sleep, and then I just can't do it.
All right. The decision, of course, in a sense, is yours, but it is also, in a sense, the animal's. However, I will tell you this. If you do that out of love, there will be nothing negative about it whatsoever. Do you understand?
Yeah, does that...
The animal understands. And the animal knows its consciousness continues. So, have a dialogue, either physiologically or in what you call your dreams with the animal. It doesn't have to be rushed. You can even ask the animal, in that sense, if the animal would like to simply leave or repair before you, in that sense, make the other kind of a decision. Allow the animal to show you what the time was all about, but at the same time, allow yourself to understand there is no right and wrong in this, and there is no harm in this, no matter what you decide to do per se. However, if you recognize that the suffering in that sense does not necessarily have to continue, then the idea of allowing the animal to transition can be a loving act, and the animal will love you no less for that choice, as long as you are clear that you have made your peace and made your connection and know that the relationship will always be there, even though it may take another form. The animal knows this. Learn to know what the animal knows, and the answer will come to you, and you will know the correct thing to do. You follow?
Yeah, I've done that to a degree.
Well, obviously not to enough of a degree for you to be comfortable.
No, I'm not comfortable with it because...
Then do it to a greater degree. Do you understand how to do that?
I understand she really does not want to go yet. That's what I'm feeling.
All right.
You know.
Then what can you learn from this?
I don't know. It's
oh, come, where's your imagination?
I don't have...
Do you love this animal?
Yes.
Are you sure?
Well, at times I don't, because she gets very obnoxious, and...
Why is being obnoxious lessen your love of the animal?
Well, I just get irritated.
No. Do you love the animal?
I do love the animal,
all right.
yes. Second
question, do you love yourself?
Not always, no.
All right. Are you obnoxious sometimes? The animal, to some degree right now for you, is reflecting to you some of the ideas, the processes going on in your own consciousness relating to your degree of willingness to put up with the idea of suffering in your own life. The animal is giving you an opportunity to examine how much time you will allow to continue before you give yourself permission to understand that even though you will always have challenge, you do not have to have suffering. And the way to transform the suffering is to learn to love yourself unconditionally in the same measure that the animal loves you unconditionally, no matter how obnoxious you may get. Because the animal understands that what you term obnoxious may simply be momentary confusion or momentary forgetfulness of who you actually know yourself to be. Do you understand? And thus, the animal's obnoxious behavior from time to time is a reflection of your own forgetfulness of yourself.
I see.
So then, learn this lesson of love and create, co-create, continue to co-create the relationship for what it is, because all relationships that exist, no matter with whom they are, any being, any relationship of any kind, is for one purpose and one purpose only. That you, in the relationship, use the relationship to learn to become more of who you know you are, and to allow all other beings in that relationship to do the same for themselves. That's the purpose of relationship. So, go forth with this understanding, play with it. With this knowledge now, see what you get that might be different than what you have gotten before. You will get clarity if you stay within the energy you are in right now. Do you understand?
Yes. So it does not harm an animal when we euthanize them.
Does it harm you to physically die?
Well, I hope not.
You know it doesn't. You know it does not. All things change. Change is the only constant. This is the fourth law of creation. But the first law of creation is that you exist. You can't alter that. So, while you may exist in many different forms, while you will transform from physical to non-physical, non-physical to physical, parallel dimensions, alternate realities, while you will experience your consciousness on many different levels as many different things or forms of expression, you will always exist, but you will always change. There is no harm in change in that sense. Do you understand?
Yes, but well, there is such a thing as naturally dying and taking the life of
I understand, but again remember that there are always reasons for the choice of how that happens, and sometimes the idea of the choice of the way to transition in and of itself serves the purpose to put other individuals who are connected to that transition in touch with things they need to be put in touch with. Therefore, certain beings, especially animals, will choose to transition in certain ways that will evoke the need for you to explore certain issues, rather than just simply letting you take the easy way out. You understand?
Well, the easy way is just to wait until she dies naturally.
In a sense, although it won't necessarily be the easiest way if you do not feel good about watching the animal suffer.
Well, it's sort of I just feel not there. I feel uncomfortable watching her suffer, and I feel uncomfortable making the decision to euthanize her. So
I understand, but the point is that you are suffering in your decision, and you don't have to. If you will understand what we said to you about having a clearer communication about the reason for why you are going through this, and that would be to examine what issues come up within you about the things that are not who you know yourself to be. And then you will have clearer insight about what you need to do, because you will have used the circumstance for the purpose it was intended, and that is to help you understand more of who you are.
Well, I'll think about that.
Well, all right, but I would suggest you do more than think about it. I would suggest that you feel it fully, and I would suggest that you allow yourself to know that you will take some action in some direction that will be appropriate. And if you allow yourself to know that this will happen, then the situation can be utilized to its fullest purpose. All right?
Yeah, okay.
Sweet dreams to you.
Can I ask another question?
No.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Another time.
Another time.
Hello, Bashar.
And you good day.
Last month when you were here, you answered a question that about a group of people who had the abnormalities in the jaw area and some pains. And I got your tape and I took it back to these people and I was able to have them listen to it. And it's made a wonderful change. And this group now definitely knows that there's certain things that we're supposed to do.
Not supposed to, but can choose to.
Can choose to do. Really getting ourselves through this. Yeah, I have thought for a long time. In fact, none of the group are also feeling the same way that they have wishes, they have wonderful gifts and talents, they know that they want to express. Yes. Right? And so the group is growing in that respect to do that.
Then we thank you for your willingness to choose to be more of yourselves. That will make all the difference in your world and in ours.
Well, some of the people they're just constantine and they don't know how to go about it.
They will. They will always eventually receive the guidance and the information they need. Always, eventually. If they are willing to move with that intention, you will always, eventually, know what to do.
Okay. Also, there was the information that a group of 12 with a flow of 1 is of people who are supposed to be meeting with a leading party of multinational entities, and this is supposed to happen before April. This has been prophesied in not only the Native American, but a lot of information people are coming
What is being sensed is the opportunity for such things to accelerate. Not necessarily that it has to manifest exactly physically at that time, but a great many doorways exactly at that time will open for the acceleration of such opportunities. In certain levels, such meetings will at that time take place. Not necessarily will they manifest physiologically. But look to it as a time for all of you to focus on the idea of becoming more of yourselves, so that you will be the selves you need to be in order to meet others who are in and of themselves holistic. Do you understand this?
Okay.
Things are accelerating towards such events, yes. Do not necessarily confine it to the idea of a specific time and place yet, because there is much integration that your people need to do before you are ready to, in a sense, withstand the energy vibration of such a meeting. Because it is literally the overlapping of different dimensions of reality, and many of you, unless you are really ready for that, will run screaming at such an event, no matter how benign the others may be. Do you understand? So, utilize it as an opportunity to accelerate that potential. But understand that as you do so, you're accelerating the potential of learning to really meet your own selves first, because you haven't done that yet. Does that make sense to you?
Yes, it does. One more question?
That was a question.
Answer on another question. On the cone versus the pyramid, for contact with ETs, would the cone itself be a better?
Neither will be better. It is up to each individual in terms of what they resonate to. Their own imaginations, their own creativity, their own inspiration will be their best guide. There is no best way. All of these things can be utilized, but remember, they are all only reflections of your own consciousness. Your consciousness is what is doing the contacting. These things simply act as reflections of what vibration you deem is most appropriate for you, and thus you attract to yourself by making it attractive to you the things that best physically reflect the energy you are already best capable of using for those purposes. You understand this?
Yes, I do.
Does that help you then?
Yes, it does.
Thank you.
Thank you. Good evening, Bashar.
Good day.
How are you?
Perfect, and you?
Perfect, thank you.
Thank you.
I thought it might have for the last few days, and I'm sorry.
Past, present, or future?
I don't know. But I was having like a hormone imbalance, and I was wondering if that's what's related to it.
We scan that you do have some chemical imbalance, but the chemical imbalance comes from the tension, which of course then, by being produced in the body, reinforces the tension that is there. But first, there is the tension to begin with. There is the emotional tension first, before there is any physiological ramification. So, what are you emotionally tense about?
Relationships.
I see. And so?
And it sounds like I have the hardest time having happy relationships.
The idea, yes, but the idea to understand in the simplest level of reflection is that means you're having difficulty having a healthy, happy relationship with yourself. I know you know, because you're all psychic, you're all intuitive, and you all really know who you are, and I don't really have to tell you. All you have to do is be honest and admit it to yourselves, and then you will know what to do. But I am willing to help reflect these things to you when you choose to pretend that you don't know who you are.
Well, I really appreciate it.
Well, thank you. We appreciate all of you as well. However, the idea, again, of course, as you already know, is that you are still going through the idea of discovering what it is all about to have a healthy, happy relationship with yourself. Therefore, what is it you can do to accelerate that idea before you focus on the idea of attracting or manifesting a reflection of a relationship in the outer world? Because remember, the idea of relationships is not for the purpose of being complete. The idea is to have a reflection to share what you already understand to be your completeness. And that doesn't mean you have to have an end-all, be-all perfection within you. It simply means that you have to behave as if you know you have everything you need because you were created to be complete. Even though you will go through many changes of spiritual growth, you are still complete at any given moment as to whatever you define yourself to be at that moment. So, you have to come to terms with finding out what it is you need to do to have a healthy, happy relationship as yourself before anything can reflect itself in your outer reality as such a relationship.
Okay.
So what would you like to do? Are you sure?
Yes.
Well, all right. If you were, he said, nudging her along, going to imagine that you had what you deem to be or label to be a totally, perfectly healthy, happy relationship with yourself, what would be different about you than what's going on now? How would you be different? Would your behavior be different? Would your attitude toward yourself on certain issues be different? Would you be... Well, I don't know what the difference would be.
I think that I am so hard on myself.
I see.
Yeah.
Why are you so hard on yourself? Why? Why? Why do you choose to be so hard on yourself? Yes, you do.
I guess it's all things I don't
Not really. Yes, you do. Why? What do you get out of it?
Yes. That's what I get out of it.
But what do you get out of it in the quote-unquote positive sense? Because you never do anything. None of you. You never do anything unless you think you're getting something out of it. So, what do you get out of being hard on yourself? What does it, shall we say, put you in a position of not having to do? What are you afraid you will have to do if you're no longer hard on yourself? That's another way to ask the question.
Good question.
Thank you. You have a good answer.
Yes,
You do. What are you afraid you will have to be like if you are no longer hard on yourself?
Too sensitive, maybe?
You are afraid that you will become too sensitive?
Yeah.
Define too sensitive. Meaning, in what way? How do you mean that? In what situations would you describe yourself as being too sensitive? Vulnerable.
Yeah.
So you are defining vulnerability as weakness instead of strength.
Yeah.
All right, well, there you see you're getting to the core issues. Your definitions are not serving you.
Correct.
Start defining the idea of vulnerability as strength.
Okay.
Do you know how to do that? We gotta know. Thank you. Vulnerability is the idea of being open. Being totally open means you are connected to all that is. Being connected to all that is means you are supported by all that is. Being supported by all that is means you are infinitely powerful. That's vulnerability. The willingness to be who you are, knowing that who you are is completely supported by all that is, otherwise you wouldn't even exist. So that's the beginning for you. And then when you begin to know that, make it your own, you will not be so hard on yourself, because you will no longer deny that you are the reflection of the infinite you were created to be. Because that's what being hard on yourselves is all about. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. I'm not worthy. A side note, and this is not a chastisement nor a judgment. Understand that we are simply giving you a little bit of guidance here from unconditional love, all right? All right. To say, I am not worthy of that which I have been created to be, even though it may seem as if you are attempting to humble yourself, is actually one of the greatest acts of arrogance there is. Because you are saying that out of all of the universe that works flawlessly, I alone am not worthy. Thus I stand out and am more special than anything else. Everything else works fine, but not me. Creation made me the one unique being that in all of creation that works flawlessly that does not work flawlessly. Thus I can point at myself and say, see, I have a reason for not being the perfect creator I know I am, because I alone am the special, flawed creation within the infinite. So it's a statement of arrogance. So, the truly humble knows that you infinitely deserve to know you are great, and simply exemplify that in your behavior, not in the idea of your negative ego, but in your actions of being willing to show the infinite that you are willing to accept what the infinite created you to be. And then you will no longer be hard on yourself, because you will value and honor what the infinite honors and values in having created you. In a sense, to be hard on yourself is to deny the idea that, in a sense, creation knew what it was doing when it created you. You are saying, you're wrong in creating me. You didn't know what you are doing when you created me. I am a mistake in the overall creation. Thus you are, in that sense, devaluing all of creation, so how can creation support you? In knowing that you are strong. Until you yourself know that you wouldn't be if you didn't belong. So if you allow yourself to know you belong in all the ways that you can express that, then you are valuing not only yourself, but creation simultaneously, and then creation can support you in the valuation of yourself. Yes, well said. Something that even a child knows, but an adult on your planet many times forgets. Do you understand? Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Bashar.
Good day.
I apologize for arriving here late, so,
Why do you need to apologize?
well, it might be inconvenient to others. It was inconvenient to me, too.
Oh, all right, if you say so. You do not need to apologize to us.
Well, very well. If you know what I was talking about, Hail Bot tonight, then I won't ask about it, but...
I have not.
Well then, may I ask about, in terms of the information that seems to be developing over the past, well, since you were here last, what do you want to say about it?
May ask.
I do. Do you have anything to say about it?
Yes. Plain and simple, straightforward. There is no object out there connected to the comet or in association with it. What individuals on your planet are perceiving and experiencing, even if physiologically, is a reflection through a window to other dimensions of the probable futures that represent the vibrational level of the consciousness doing the perceiving. Are you following that?
Not altogether.
All right. Think of this, in a sense, as a consciousness mirror. That the comet is a significator of timing, as many of you understand, symbolically. It represents a timing when you're opening up your understanding of all the probable ways your future can go, of all the probable things that your future can contain. Thus, it is acting, reflecting back to you, like a mirror, an amalgamation of the collective consciousness of your planet, which of course is much, in a sense, bigger than your physical world, and so many individuals have perceived the idea of an object out there many times the size of your planet. In a sense, that is true, but it is not physically there. In the same way that your reflection in a mirror is not actually in the mirror, because the only reason you can see it is because the light is coming back to you, and it is here, and it is coming from you to the mirror, back to you, so that you can perceive it. So in this sense, the comet is associated with energies that are capable of reflecting to your world the true scale, scope, and magnitude of the collective consciousness of your planet, and an opportunity to view in this mirror will have the ability to determine what vibrational frequency, what probable reality you desire, and to work together telepathically to concretize or crystallize that probable future reality idea into what you prefer your planet to be. Does that make some sense to you?
Some, yeah. All right, I'll turn it over.
Oh, all right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I will sort of go on.
Yes.
I suspect there may be some synchronicity in this, but as I said, I got your name. I wanted to ask you about a dream I had many years ago
Yes.
about what I call a transmission or a mechanism that was cone-shaped.
Oh, what?
There was actually a cone inside of another cone with a shaft coming out of each end.
Yes.
And I woke up with a very clear impression that it was a machine of some kind, but...
Yes. I will ask you a question.
Yes.
Were the cones inverted to each other?
No.
Were they facing the same way?
Yes.
All right. Go ahead.
Well, actually one fitted inside the other.
Yes.
They were almost...
But facing the same way.
Exactly.
Yes, all right.
And there was a shaft coming out of the outer cone at the pointed end.
All right.
And then the inner, at the top of the open end of the inner cone, there was a sort of a roof or a little structure that closed it, and a shaft that came out of that end. It was as if the power was being transmitted through one shaft,
Yes.
transmitted to the other cone,
Yes.
and out into the other shaft. And the way this was done, but was the cones moved in and out from each other,
Yes.
and they were connected by a system of flanges and slats. That's the name I'm giving them.
Yes. This is, in a sense, a type of valve situation. In a sense, you are correct. It is a type of transmission situation, like a neuron to some degree, for a rough analogy, in the sense that there is a gap between them that allows a certain kind of energy to be transmitted and transformed into other kinds of energy. It is a type of regulation and is based on the ratios that we described in the cone this day of your time, yes. But it is a way to manipulate the energy. It is a way to allow the energy to flow in lesser or greater quantities, in that sense, as a regulator, as a transmission of that energy. Yes, it is a circuit in that sense, yes.
Okay, now, why did I have that dream? What good does it do me? And
Well, that in a sense is really up to you to decide. However, symbolically, it showed you were at a point that you know you are now capable of translating more energy, stepping it up, regulating it as you wish. In other words, that you are in total capability of being in control of how you flow energy in your life to whatever you intend it to go into. So symbolically, it can simply work for you that way. On the other hand, depending on whether or not it actually excites you, you could also physically build this thing and be part and parcel of bringing a new technology, or, again, an old technology remembered, to your planet, if you wish, but that's up to you. And anything in between that your imagination decides is reflective of your highest joy with regard to the symbol that you have given yourself or attracted to yourself in this way. Does that help you?
Yes, indeed. Very much. Thank you.
Then again, exciting dreams to you.
Thank you. I have a few more questions, if I may.
Keep it brief if you can.
The two experiences or sightings that I had back in the early 60s in Spain, would you have anything other than what I've already thought about them to add to what they were all about, what the significance was?
Not at this time, except for the fact that to some degree they were involved in your reception of the device you have already described.
Really? I never made a connection between those things before.
Well, make the connection now, because obviously that's what the device represents, making a connection.
Okay.
You are connected to those beings. They are connected to you, and they assisted in your ability to remember how to attract and bring through to your physical reality those types of energies once again. And it was symbolized by that device, which can be quite literally constructed, but nevertheless is also, as we said, symbolic of the ability to do that. Make connections, amplify energies, step them up, step them down, and to increase and accelerate the concept of manifestation and the refinement of the focus of the manifestation in that sense. So that is what we will share with you with regard to the sightings, and that is all we are allowed to share at this time regarding that subject.
Okay. Another subject?
Again, be brief.
Okay. Again, you might have spoken about this in the past, but sorry, I don't know about it. The individual known as Billy Meyer in Switzerland.
Yes.
I tend to regard him as a fraud. What is your view of that?
Some of the interactions actually did occur. There have been, since that timing, many manipulations of the information, many misunderstandings of the events, many deliberate misdirections of information in that sense on the part of certain individuals, both for the idea of manipulation and from the idea of fear, and from the idea of not wanting to be bothered anymore. There was some concrete reality involved, not necessarily as much as has been said, but the initial interactions are real in their own right, although, again, as we have said, obviously, much, shall we say, static has been built up around it for a variety of special interest reasons. And that is all we will say about that. Thank you for your sharing at this time.
Okay, thank you. Good night.
Good day.
Good day, Bashar.
Good day.
I have a question about my physical body and strength.
Physical body and strength.
Since my birthing of Everest,
Everest,
yes. I just feel much.
Yes.
I feel much weaker.
Weaker, all right.
And
how did you feel before the birthing?
I had a very good pregnancy.
Yes.
I wasn't sick at all. I felt strong.
All right, but I'm not really talking about the idea of the physiological manifestations connected to the pregnancy. I'm asking about your emotional health prior to it. How did you feel about yourself and your life prior to the pregnancy?
Felt that things were going very well.
Yes, in what context do you mean that?
I loved my husband, where we were living.
Yes.
We had relocated.
Yes.
The work that I was doing
Yes.
was satisfying.
Yes.
Financially, things were very difficult.
All right. Financial energy is energy management. Continue. Now, what does the idea of the pregnancy mean to you in and of itself? How do you feel about the idea of making an agreement and a connection to this being that you call your child? And if I may, before you answer that question, ask you another. What determined your choice of the name Everest? Since obviously you feel like you are climbing a mountain right now.
Well, actually, I believe that. Well, let me answer the first question first.
All right.
I forgot what the first question was. Okay, that's fine.
I see. All right. Erase all the questions you have been asked for now. I will ask you a fresh and new one. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
All right. We'll keep this simple, and I'll ask you one at a time so that you will not forget.
Okay.
What is your greatest sadness? What are you sad about? What would you like to release in terms of sadness in your life?
I hadn't thought about it before.
Think about it now.
But what came up is, prior to ever being here,
Yes.
I thought I was in communication with the being for a couple of years,
Yes.
who I thought wanted to come through.
Yes.
And he is not that being.
So, what makes you sad about this?
He's more than I could even ever imagine. I'm not sad that he's here, but I think I have some sadness that I wasn't aware of about the other being.
And so, what does that sadness represent? In other words, what are your reasons for the sadness about the other being, if that's what it is?
Oh, okay, I'm on the bus now.
Yes. Well, you have your ticket.
Okay.
Exact
I
same.
have an intuitive person. And had come to on my
I see.
on my intuition and
I see.
my sense of knowing.
Are you saying that you
run all my circuits?
let yourself down? Are you saying you let yourself down? Is that what you were saying? Are you saying you are disappointed you were not, in your terms, more accurate? Is that what you were saying? What are you saying here?
I think that might be part of it.
All right. What are the other parts, as you call them? Why are you so sad? What is the great sadness you carry? What is the great weight on you? Well,
I'm not sure. My mind is going, but I feel like it's rationalization.
all right. Well, stop thinking and start feeling it. Feel the great sadness. When you feel the great sadness, remember you have to accept the emotion, not deny it. When you feel this great weight, this great sadness that you want to release, do you get images? Do you get other feelings? Do you get ideas and thoughts of connection to something? Does anything come up at all?
I feel a heavy weight in the heart center.
Yes.
And then in the second chakra.
All right. Who are you crying for?
I think my mother.
All right. Or perhaps yourself as well.
Yeah.
Yes. What about your mother? Why would you cry for your mother? What great sadness would you have about her? Can you be more specific? Feel it again if you get lost. Get back into the feeling. It will serve you. It will put you back on track, or as you say, back on the bus. So get back into the feeling. What's the great sadness you have about your mother? Or shall we say connected to your mother? About yourself? Was there something not there that you wanted to be there? Is it that kind of a thing?
No, I don't think that's it.
Then what is it? What's the great sadness? Why did you say, my mother?
I'm not sure exactly how it's related, so maybe you can help me here.
All right, then let's go to you.
Okay.
What do you have as a great sadness about yourself? Are you not who you want to be?
I am, at the moment, a little bit more than I'd like to be.
All right, I'll ask you, let's do it another way. Here it comes. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
All right. Don't want to blow your circuit, as you say. For how long have you not been who you want to be? Say whatever comes to mind. Don't analyze it. It doesn't necessarily have to be a technical question of time. For how long have you not been who you want to be?
A long time.
Thank you. Would you even venture to say it feels like a long, long time?
Yeah.
Would you venture to say it feels like a long, long, long time, or are 2 longs enough?
I think 2 longs are enough.
So just a long, long time you feel you have not been who you know you are.
Yes.
All right. Is there some particular expression in physical reality, behavior, creative act, some opportunity, something that you could be doing that would be more representative of your joy than what you're doing in your life? If you could know that you could be anything or do anything, what would you choose?
I think just to be comfortable where I am. I don't think there's a thing that because
All right. No, that's good. That's all right. That's all right. Just to be comfortable with where you are.
Yeah.
All right. Now, that doesn't necessarily translate as settling for less, does it?
No.
All right.
No.
Truly to accept being comfortable where you are. Yes?
Yes.
All right. Now, do you understand the principle again of the paradox that as soon as you accept, totally accept, being comfortable where you are changes? Do you understand that?
Yes.
Are you willing to accept that automatic and immediate change?
Yes.
All right. So you are willing to be comfortable and totally accept where you are at any given moment, no matter which where you are it becomes. Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
No matter what happens. Is that what you're saying? No matter what happens. Is that what you're saying? Or are you not saying that?
I'm saying I'd like to be there, but I don't think I'm there. Yeah.
All right, now, one moment. What scared you out of that spot? Because you were there. And you ran from it. When I said, no matter what happens, and you went, oh, wait a minute, I don't think I'm there. You were there. You ran from it when I said that. What scared you about the phrase, no matter what happens? Did your mind come up, or your heart come up, or your feeling come up with the idea of some imaginary worst-case scenario that might happen that you believe you will not be able to accept?
Yes.
And that was?
Just experiencing lack, more financial lack.
Experiencing lack. Experiencing lack. Lack. All right. So in that sense, you feel your life is on that level lackluster? That you lack light? You lack luster? You lack brilliance? You lack spark? You lack life on that level? You do not feel alive with regard to the idea of abundance and support?
That's not exactly it. I mean,
then, by all means, be more precise.
Okay. There are moments where
Yes.
it does feel light and joyous and wonderful
And why is that? Why does that happen? Are you saying that in those moments you do not feel the sadness and the weight that you're feeling now?
Right.
Why? Why are those moments different? What's different about them?
I guess that I'm fully present in that moment, and there's no fear in that moment.
All right. So you accept completely yourself in that moment.
Yes.
Is that what you're saying?
Yes.
All right. Then what do you imagine would be unacceptable? Are you saying that what is unacceptable is not having money?
Yes.
Why? Why is that unacceptable?
It has been
drummed into you.
No. It's
Yes.
the worst.
It has been drummed into you that you need that in order to survive. Has it not? Why would you panic about not having it? Because that's what you're experiencing, you know. You're experiencing a panic attack. Shortness of breath, weakness of strength. It's a panic attack. Why would you panic because money is not present in your life in the way you think it ought to be? What do you think will happen if you have no money? What is the worst fear you have about this? Give it a voice. What is the worst fear you have on this issue? What is the worst possible thing that could happen without any money? Or without the level of money you obviously believe is necessary in order for you to feel supported in the way that you want to feel that. What is the worst possible thing that could happen? Give rise to your fear, acknowledge it, own it, give it a name.
We would have to ask our parents for money again.
My, how tragic. It's the end of the world. Not that you necessarily would have to, you know. But even if you did find yourself in that position, is that really so bad to you? And if so, why? Do you feel you are being a burden?
Well, it feels like I'm not being who I really am if I'm living in the life of lack. If I can't provide myself and my family with what there's a part of me that knows.
You are very close to the secret here. You're very close. Keep going. You're very close to the secret.
There's a part of me that knows that there is such tremendous abundance available to us that we already have, and yet it seems like we keep getting stuck in the same place.
Yes. And why would that be so? How can you get stuck in the same place? What can cause you to be stuck?
Fear.
But where does the fear come from? What is the fear based on? Do you want a hint?
Yes.
Definitions that you believe to be true. I tell you this. You cannot have a feeling about anything unless you first have a definition of that thing. Do you understand this?
Yes.
You cannot experience an emotion about anything unless you first have a belief about that thing that you hold to be true. It's not possible. So, if you have the feeling of fear about this issue, if you create the idea that you are stuck in this place, it's because your definitions motivate you to choose to act and choose to reinforce those beliefs that you have bought into about that idea.
Okay.
Being more powerful than any other idea you could choose to believe in. Is this making some sense to you?
Yeah, so you're saying uncover the core beliefs
Yes.
regarding...
That's what the emotions are for. That's what the fear is for. This is what we said earlier in this conversation. Use the fear by saying, if I am so afraid, what would I have to believe to be true in order to experience this degree of fear about the situation? What would I have to believe is true about not having money in order to be afraid that I don't have it? So, what do you believe is true about not having money that would make you choose to be afraid? Give me a definition. What do you believe is true about not having money? I am a burden. I am incapable of being a creator. I will allow my family to suffer. Am I heading in the right direction?
Maybe, but it's not...
Anything else you want to add?
There's something, I know that there, and I don't want to take up too much time, but I know that...
Oh, I see. You are willing to, in that sense, shortchange yourself. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
I see.
Which is the pattern.
It's a choice, not a pattern. You know why? I'll tell you. Are you listening?
I'm listening.
A pattern, a habit, is something you do that you don't know you're doing.
Right.
When you know you're doing it, you don't have the habit anymore.
Okay.
If you keep doing it, it's a choice.
Okay.
And you keep choosing it, if you keep choosing it, because you're motivated to keep choosing it. And why are you motivated to keep choosing it? Because you have a belief that says you should do so. Is this coming clearer?
Yes.
Therefore, it's not about the idea of falling back on the excuse of having the habit of doing this. It's no longer a habit because you're aware you had the habit. But once you know you have the habit, that is the end of the habit, not the beginning of the process of getting rid of the habit. When you know you have it, that's it, it's gone. Now you get into the real work of knowing, I have now discovered that I had this pattern. But now that I know it's no longer there, I find that if my behavior continues to exhibit the pattern, it's not that it's a pattern, it's that I have a belief that motivates me to continue to behave in that direction. What the heck is that belief? Colloquially speaking. So, what the heck is that belief?
I think that there's a belief that I have to, maybe it goes back to I'm not worthy. I have to settle for
It's what we just said.
Yeah.
You are willing to shortchange yourself. If you are willing to shortchange yourself, how can you expect the universe to give you abundance? Do you understand? This is all about honoring yourself. It's all about understanding that you are the first coin you have to spend. And if you're not willing to believe you have value, what can you buy? Do you understand?
Yes.
You're saying you have devalued. So you have yourself no concept of your own abundance and your capability to buy, so to speak, the reality you prefer with the coin of yourself, because that's what it's bought with. The only value there is your value. Everything is a reflection of your value. Money doesn't have value on its own. If you didn't exist, it would have no value at all. It wouldn't even exist as a concept. The only reason money on your planet has value, if that is one of the symbols you wish to use as the idea of abundance, just as valid as any other symbol, and there are many, but if that's what you're using, you have to know that if you don't value yourself, you can't attract the symbol in a way that reflects the value. You have devalued your money by devaluing yourself. So you have nothing to spend. So you have to value yourself in order to valuate your money. Make sense? Does that give you something to work with?
Yes.
Do you feel a little bit richer?
Lighter.
That's the same thing.
Yeah.
The higher frequency means you are operating closer to the idea of honoring yourself and valuing yourself. And that means your bank account is growing. Do you understand?
Yes.
And now that can begin to be reflected in your outer reality through the synchronicities that will start occurring to reflect your willingness to value yourself. Your physical reality can do nothing but reflect it. But if it doesn't reflect something you say you want, you have to understand you're not giving off the image to be reflected. And that's all there is to it. You're not being who you are. Because who you are, all of you, who you are, naturally is abundant, is joyful, is created. Why? Because you are made in the image of creation. What can you do but create? That's your nature, to create. On all levels, you put your intent and imagination to. So if you find that there is no creation happening in an area, you have to understand it's because you are not creating yourself to be there. You understand that?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, dear friend.
And you good day.
As I was thinking of
some questions asked, I found that the answers were coming to me, which was
Why,
very sad.
thank you. For understanding you do all have the answers, and I am only sharing these things with you to remind you of that fact. Thank you.
As some of these answers were coming, I perceived your voice as vehicle with some of these answers.
You are creating your energy to match my frequency, and so it is translating into the idea of the augmentation of the channel's voice.
Thank you.
Because that's the vibration you are familiar with in terms of symbolizing when you are on that level. You're using me as a guideline, in a sense.
So it's more of a vibrational matching rather than
Yes, it is a resonance identification. That means you are now tapped into the level of your own energy that is equal to the level I am giving off.
Okay, thank you. One last question I wanted to ask about my son, the being that was up here with my wife.
Oh, all right. The mountains.
The mountain.
Who is ever at rest.
And I stand in awe of this being, and
awe as in aw shucks?
That too. Is there anything that you might share at this time that might help us to better serve him, or to know about his
I will certainly put this to you. He represents the idea that you are certainly both powerful enough to have called the mountain to you, instead of having to have gone to the mountain. Take that to heart and see what that does.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Two Professor.
Andrew, you good day.
I was just thinking about the present is not a result of the past. And you had talked about that a long time ago, and saying that this was a marker stone of fourth density reality.
Yes.
Right, and the reality we're moving into. Now, this is, I've heard it said that the metaphysical tools that we've had in the past are going to change now.
In some senses, they will become somewhat streamlined, yes.
And
it doesn't mean that they have no value, but as you accelerate, of course, like anything, as a child grows up, it understands that it can use tools, different tools, in a different way.
Yeah, and how and when they change, and what new tools we use to play with.
Well, some of the idea will in and of itself be similar to what we have described earlier in this conversation, with the literalization of such concepts as the cone, because it represents an amalgamation of your collective consciousness's recognition that you are connected to the etheric and manifest the physical reality, technically speaking, from the etheric. So that will be like a consolidation of all sorts of different metaphysical tools that will no longer be necessary per se when you recognize the cone as an amalgamation of all that thought, all that intent, all that understanding, and have simplified it into the simple geometric that will perform the same function as perhaps 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 other tools. That kind of thing is one example.
All right, and then it's talked about years ago when
Yes.
And the energy present within.
Yes.
And what it could do and all.
Yes.
And that's still viable then.
Yes. Although, again, it doesn't necessarily have to be done that way. As we say, you can utilize this device in any way, shape, or form your imagination directs you. But you can do it that way if you wish. In a sense, it is like reclaiming the magic within you. If you wish to do it that way and play with it that way, that's all right, and it will work.
Right, and we're just talking about the holistic beings.
Yes.
And which type of beings could we expect to interact with?
We expect over time to interact with the idea of hybrids. You can expect over time to interact with the idea of Pleiadians, of Sirius energy, and a variety of other members of the association that we will not necessarily go into at this time.
But you're talking about in the physical. What we perceive as physical.
Yes, eventually, yes.
Because I understand we're all interacting with them in our dream.
Yes. We understood that you meant the idea of physical, and that is what we are answering to. Yes.
Alright, and how about the reptilians?
You may find that you will deal with them tangentially because they represent a tangential connection to the graves which are evolving into another form altogether. So the idea of relations with what you call the reptilians will be handled very differently.
Okay, and that happen on a physical level.
It is not that it will not eventually happen that way, but there will be many other things that have to be put in place before such a relationship can occur, because it is not necessarily that such a relationship is directly a part of the kinds of relationships you will form with regard to your connection to the association, so they are not directly a part of it in that way.
And the Pleiadian beings, how would you tell if we're interacting with the Pleiadian beings?
Oh, believe me, you will know. You will find yourself filled with a great, overwhelming sense of love, compassion, and at the same time, extreme sensuality and earthiness, so to speak. But balanced.
Balanced,
Yes.
Alright, and we're talking about holistic beings and holding the whole planet Earth, and you take all these different aspects.
Yes.
Alright, just like an individual being, you take all the different aspects.
Yes.
What's involved in your personality makeup?
Yes.
Okay. When you're abducting one of your beings in one of your early lifetimes. Okay?
Yes.
Do you remember?
Yes.
Okay. And in that state, that extreme state of fear,
Yes.
freaking out,
We understand the concept.
calm down,
Yes.
can you take into consideration that aspect, that personality aspect?
Of course, always. You can leave nothing out, because acceleration can only be the product of the acceptance and integration of all aspects, not the, in a sense, exclusion of anything.
Yeah, but what I'm saying is this.
Yes.
So just so we're clear on this.
Oh, all right.
Alright, because you had said that the Greys look at it like if they could interact, alright, then they have the right to interact.
Remember, of course, that we are talking about different factions and levels of grades when you say that. And there are different agendas for each level to certain degrees. But you are, in that sense, referring to the level that recognizes the agenda for a particular reason?
Well, I'm not saying for a particular reason, I'm talking about in general. Because when these...
But in general, with which group? With which faction?
Well, the Greys. Now,
But the Greys cover a wide spectrum of factions and groups with different agendas.
yes, I understand that. But what I'm saying is this.
Yes.
Alright. With the factions that the abductions occur. Okay? And if that...
And it's more than one faction that occurs.
That's what I'm saying. Now, if
Yes.
it's more than one,
Yes.
do they all look at it like it was because we can interact in this manner, in an abduction manner, or, detainment manner, we talk about now.
Yes.
They all have the right to do it because they have, zeroed in, let's say, on that individual, that new individual.
The majority of them recognize it as a form of agreement. Some of them will, in a sense, impose their own agenda and color the idea of that agreement in a way that you might find a little bit more abrupt or inconsiderate. Others will come from a level of understanding of recognizing the agreement that has been made that, in your perspective, would be, shall we say, more beneficial or more loving. However, there are some that do not recognize the agreement per se at all, but simply feel they have a need, and in that sense are right because they have a need, and it has nothing at all to do with the recognition of any agreement that you may have made with them on a soul level.
Well, in essence, that's what I'm talking about, is that when they're interacting in this manner,
Okay.
you know, like,
You mean the latter?
the latter and the others too, in the sense that, you know, because it's still an upsetting experience for the human individual.
Yes.
Okay? All right, in all those interactions, in all of those, wherever they expand, you know, between the different groups of grays,
Okay.
all right, and the grays feel, well, you know, they're agreeing on the soul level. Now, we're just talking about holism.
Okay.
How about the personality level, conscious, aware personality level, that says, you know, what's going on here, you know?
Are you talking about
that level? I'm talking about the grays. Why don't they take that into consideration?
the reaction of the human?
That's right, the reaction of the human.
The idea is, again, multifold. Some simply feel that they should disregard it because it is not as important as the agenda. Others recognize it perhaps from the idea of the soul level, in the same way that your soul, not that it ignores you, not that it doesn't take it into consideration, but simply recognizes it is not as important that your physical persona may, in your terms, freak out for a moment, because the soul may recognize that there is a greater lesson, a greater experience being had that is worth the momentary trouble. In the same way that you may feel a certain job is worth doing, even though it may contain a little bit of pain, struggle from time to time, or you may hurt yourself a little bit or strain yourself a little bit, that doesn't always necessarily come into play with the idea of your overall quote-unquote goal in the reason for doing what you're doing. From the soul's point of view, what may, I understand, and this is not a diminishment of the experience, what may to the physical persona seem overwhelmingly terrifying, from the oversoul's point of view may be nothing more inconvenient than a hangnail, temporarily. And that's another level upon which it sometimes is looked by some of the more advanced grades. In other words, they understand that the physical reality does by definition contain the potential to have pain in the situation, from a variety of reasons, more often than not from the suppressed fear idea that exists within humanity. But that is not a good enough reason for them not to do it, because of what they understand will be the great benefit that the pain can be used to be transformed into, eventually, that will result for your society as well as for theirs. So in that sense, what you may simply say is that the ultimate benefits outweigh the temporary inconvenience of the terror.
Alright, so this is in effect like a parent on this planet, a parent-child relationship.
Yes, a very apt analogy.
Where the parent smacks the child and says, well, I'm doing this for your benefit.
Well, not exactly. One more. Not exactly. Because the idea in that scenario, the reasons for why such a scenario may exist there have more potential to come from devaluation and lack of understanding on the part of the parent and the child simultaneously, instead of finding another way to resolve that idea. I understand the context in which you mean it, but perhaps a more apt scenario might be the idea of taking the child to a doctor and knowing that even though the procedure that you may be subjecting the child to may be temporarily painful, you know that ultimately it is for their own good because it will heal them, even though they may be very frightened by the experience.
Yes, I thought of that too, man.
That is a little bit more apt energetically because it contains fewer divergent possible reasons for why that might occur, rather than the idea of physical harm, in that sense, has less opportunity to have in your terms a quote-unquote good reason for happening.
Yeah, but would a smack be physical harm?
Simply the idea, yes, of physical impact that may be physically harming the body. Depends upon the scenario, of course, I understand. But simply put, in general terms, the idea of feeling the need to hit a child usually will have less opportunities for actually having a good reason than the idea of simply subjecting the child to a painful experience, such as a doctor for its own good.
Yeah, but
Yes?
Hitting a child.
Yes.
Smacking a child.
Yes.
To me, that's, it's like, it's like putting water in your face when you're waking up in the morning. It's not like a
I understand that there are times in which it may, in a sense, be appropriate only on the same level and for the same reason as the idea that a Zen master may smack an acolyte.
That's right.
To bring it back to understanding. However, all I am saying is, while I understand the reason you use the analogy in that spirit, we simply wish to add, because we felt it would be important to add, that there are not as many positive reasons for such an act as there might be for the other analogy we gave.
Yes. No, I understand what you're saying. And the interactions with Palladians,
Yeah,
they're on this level. I mean, it's not like an induction or nothing, you know what I mean?
yes, and so?
I mean, you know, why is such a difference? You know what I'm talking about. But the other thing,
The agenda of the Greys is simply very different in terms of its historical context from the agenda of the Pleiadians. In the same way that why you have the kinds of relations with one country that than you do from another country. It is a different historical context. They're coming from a completely different understanding of history and their own experience as to what they think your relationship is all about, as opposed to where the Greys are coming from in general. That's why. They're different people. They're different altogether in many ways.
and what's the difference in the thought process?
Between what you might call a Grey and a Pleiadian?
Yes. Grey, Palladian, and Union. What's the Union?
The idea, perhaps, of the Grey. Would that, in general, be the overall agenda of survival and continuation of the species from the damage it caused itself? The overall agenda of the human is the idea of the integration of all the things it has suppressed within itself. The ultimate idea of the agenda of the Pleiadian is the willingness, similar to some degree, but not on the same level, to allow there to be a balance in polarity. But still, the major agenda is to recognize that pain does not have to be experienced in their reality at this time, though they have to more broadly accept the idea that the polarity that you call negativity does have to be accepted as completely as the polarity you call unconditional love. They are more similar to the human agenda than the Greys may be in that context of thought process, of how they see themselves, how they see you, how you see yourselves, how you see the others, how the Greys see themselves, so on and so forth.
And how do you see the interactions between Greys and Unions and the agenda of the hybrid program? The Pleiadians, how do they view all that?
They view it ultimately from the positive point of view, coming from the high fourth density vibration that they do. They see the ultimate positive outcome because that is the domain in which they reside, and as such, that is the portion of the overall agenda they most commonly interact with. You understand that?
Yeah.
In other words, like you, they see and experience only what their vibration allows them to see and experience, so for the most part, they only experience the portion of the Grey agenda that has what you would consider to be ultimately a beneficial outcome that they can interact with. Does that help you?
Yes, it does. Thank you very much.
At this time, like to, in speaking of holism, as you were, though we rarely do this, in this case we find it has meaning and importance for this interaction, and for many interactions taking place now. We will, in that sense, suggest a literary work that at this time we perceive can be one of the most beneficial literary works that exists on your planet, for the idea of getting in touch with all these things in a clear and constructive way. And that would be what you would call the book, Conversations with God, by the author Walsh. We will, in this sense, suggest and recommend at this time that of many of the idea of literary works on our planet that we have suggested, this one will be, in terms of percentage, 100% clear. Read it. That is our strong suggestion at this time. It is the product of the collective consciousness of your planet finally answering itself in as clear a way as possibly it can. You will recognize in the book that you are speaking to yourself. You will feel it. You will know the truth. It will help you wake up. Read it. At this time, we extend once again to you our unconditional love and deep appreciation at the creativity of the creation of your reality, that allows us to dream you into our reality. And we thank you for dreaming us into your own, or perhaps more precisely for co-creating the new third, balanced, centered reality in which we both interact as equals, and in every context in which it means something to you as unconditional lovers. Good day.